What's up, Push Pass Nation? Come on in, check in. Happy Wednesday to you. Simone here. Welcome back to another candid conversation. We're coming to you a little bit early in the day today, but we have so much to discuss. Come on in, check in, post a message. Let us know that you are with us because so much is going on in Dominica and we have so much to discuss. So as you come in, as always, go ahead and share the live. Let everyone know that we are here. We're going to talk about everything that is going on in Dominica. And we also like to remind our audience and everyone who joins us that this is a non-political platform. This is a place where we come to share our concerns, to raise our questions, to offer recommendations, and to kind of think of who in our community, what group, what organization might potentially be able to assist us with some of the concerns that we are sharing. So come on in, share the live. I hope that you had a great carnival season. I want to say a special thank you to everyone who in some way, some form ensured that we had a good 2022 carnival experience. So everyone who ensured that we had a good experience virtually. And I also heard that the on-site events were good as well. So for anyone who had any role to play in ensuring that we had a good experience for Carnival 2022, I want to say hats off to you and thank you very much. So today we're going to have another candid conversation. We are joined today by Mr. Jason Fontaine out of the La Plaine, Dominica area. And I just went ahead and shared the link with him so he can go ahead and post it to his page as well so we can have this conversation. As you can see, our title is The Drownings in Dominica. But besides the drownings, we have so much more that we would like to cover today. So let's go ahead and bring in our guest, Mr. Jason Fontaine, so we can start the conversation. Good afternoon, good day, Jason. How are you? Can you hear me? Okay, I think Jason is frozen for just a minute, but let's give him a second.
I'm good. I'm good. Everyone, those who are yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, for those of you who are viewing via Dominica, via social media, overseas, St. Croix, United States, home and abroad, those in the metropolitan areas. Good afternoon to you. Coming to you from the island of Dominica. Himself, not photocopied.
Yeah, I think your internet is sticking a little bit, Jason.
Issues,
so
as I usually do in my normal daily life routine, that we confront the issues that's facing the people at local level. As you know, as a chairperson, a member of the, and also a chairperson fairness management.
Yeah, Jason, I'm not sure if you have another option for internet
Really?
connection, but
I've been
you are
out there in the
completely
field for
frozen.
many years, and
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, so I'm going to reach out to Jason and have him reconnect, maybe using a different internet source. So you guys just hang in there. Give me 1 second while I reach out to Jason. And just come on in. Let's have this conversation. What is on your mind? Let us know what is going on with you. And what are your concerns as you look around Dominica right now? So give me 1 second. Let me just text Jason and see if he can use a different internet connection. Can you use a different internet connection? Yeah, so what I was hoping we could talk about today, guys, and let me see who is joining us as you come in for this conversation. Let's try Jason one more time and see if his internet connection is any better. But as you're coming in, let's see who we have so far. We have Roslyn, great to see you. We have Carol Olivache Bruni, great to see you. Anthony Simon just joined us. Great to see you. So, we have a lot to cover today. And, over the weekend, for example, I think we heard about, four different deaths in Dominica. So, we heard about two drownings. The two drownings were not over the weekend, but over the course of the last several days, we've heard about two drownings. We heard about a house fire. Then we also heard about a young man who got shot up in Santa Roma. Then we also heard about the incident today where a 16-year-old was picked up by the police for allegedly the murder of a Chinese national in the Marigot area. So we have a lot to cover. We have a lot of concerns for the police that they will be able to do an investigation, especially into the young man the young man who caused the vehicular homicide of the other guy in Santa Roma, as well as the allegations about the young guy in Portsmouth in Marigot and the alleged murder of the Chinese national. So what's on your mind? This is what we're here for today. Jason Fontaine is trying to reconnect with us because I think he can make a good contribution to our conversation. But tell us what's on your mind. So I see Roslyn says, listening from New York. Hey, Roslyn, great to see you. Dave Bertrand, good night. Dr. Simon, well, Dave, it's not quite night, but good evening, good afternoon to you. Indigenous Bushman, Florida in the house. Dave Bertrand, greetings. And of course, Jennifer Fidel, good to see you. Don't forget to share the live as we are coming in. So recently we heard of a number of unfortunate events in Dominica, including the untimely death of a 24-year-old young man in Point Michelle. So, I think there are certain things that we just have to let the police handle. And that is one of the situations, the young man, the untimely death. I mean, what could cause the untimely death of a 24-year-old vibrant young man with so much potential and all his life ahead of him? So I think that is a question that I'm hoping that the police will take very seriously and will be able to solve in quick time, because young people at 24 simply do not drop dead. Do you agree? Young people simply do not drop dead. But I also think there are other areas of concern that, we as a community can have a say in. Let me try to readmit Jason and see if it works. Hey, Jason, can you hear me? Yeah, I think you're still frozen. I'm so disappointed. You're still frozen. So I don't know if you can get off your Wi-Fi and maybe find a connection to an internet connection, because unfortunately you're still frozen. Yeah, so again, the untimely death of that young man in Point Michelle has raised so many questions and so many concerns. But the ones that really stick out for me are the drownings and the house fires that we saw recently. Because I'm thinking to myself, we as Dominicans, whether we live in Dominica or we visit Dominica on a regular basis, and we also have to think about the number of visitors we're inviting to Dominica. What are our safety protocols? So that is the question I want us to look at seriously. What are some of the safety protocols in Dominica? So for example, do we now have any car seat regulations? Do we have any regulations for children who are driving in cars in terms of ensuring that they're in a car seat, that they're secured, that they're protected? What will it take to update the safety protocols in Dominica, right? So for example, when we hear about the two unfortunate deaths by drowning, it raises so many questions. And I want to hear from you as well in terms of the questions that it raises in your mind. Lydia Shillingford, great to see you. Thank you for being here. Don't forget to share the live. I want to know what questions it raises in your mind, because again, we're here to share concerns and recommendations. So, for example, with the drowning deaths, do we have any lifeguards? Is anyone trained in CPR? Right? Because in my mind, I'm thinking, and again, not pointing fingers, but just offering suggestions and recommendations. Does the Dominica Red Cross offer any training in terms of CPR? Right? And shouldn't CPR courses be offered so that folks maybe in the village councils in Dominica have an opportunity to learn CPR and bring it back to the village? Because think of it, what is the average response time for an ambulance if there's an unfortunate accident in Dominica? So we have so many questions. We have so many questions. And I'm just thinking to myself, what agencies, what organizations, what groups on the ground can potentially help us with these concerns? Because I think they are genuine concerns, and I don't think adequate resources are put into, ensuring the safety of Dominicans who visit, who live in Dominica, all the wonderful visitors that we're inviting to our shores. For example, the first drowning incident that I heard of, and again, condolences to everyone who's lost a family member recently, whether it's one of the incidents that I'm talking about or just in general. So the first incident that I heard of with the drowning, here we have a young man from the village, I believe it was Dalis, correct me if I'm wrong, and he went in because two of our visitors to our shores, two of the tourists who came to Dominica to visit, and let's try to have Jason come back in again. Jason, can you hear?
You can hear me now?
Yes, let's try again. Let's try with your
Okay.
introduction.
I switched the phones around. So you
Okay.
cannot message me on this phone
All right, that's fine.
because I'm using the other phone. I realize there's a microphone on, so it has a little bit issues, mechanical issues with it. So maybe that's better. Once again, hello to your followers. Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who are joining us from the United States, New Jersey, New York, St. Christ, and Thomas, say a pleasant good afternoon to my parents, my mom and dad in St. Croix, my brothers and siblings in the United States, and to those true patriots of this country and those who cares and love their country. Good afternoon to you. I'm happy to be on the program this afternoon to discuss the issues, as I said before, that's confronting our people. And let's take it from there. We'll see what the interaction with the public and see what their views are, what their questions and comments will be when we go forward. I mean, in true and in fact, Dominica, as we all know, is impregnant with many issues. So we cannot save the entire world, but we can discuss many and try to put some perspective to some to prevent and avoid certain things from happening on the island. So once again, I'm happy to be on. I'm looking forward to dialoguing with you and see where we go from there.
Yes, so Jason, in your mind, what is going on in Dominica? We're just seeing so much death and tragedy. What in your mind is going on in Dominica?
Dominica, in my mind, is back in the day. I remember. I'm not an old school. I mean, I'm only a certain age. I mean, I would not say my age here, but back in the day, the way the country runs before we used to, your neighbors used to, one gravy, one person food, provisions, and there was this unity, this togetherness, and it doesn't have that anymore, and I think that's lacking. If we go back way back, too many killings, too many murders, too many. I think it's also negligence on the lack of education, and also some type of counseling and different programs and schooling of our youths as they grow. As a lot of remember, my parents bought me a toy gun when I was a little boy growing up. I remember my father and my mother would buy my sisters a doll, try to practice plaiting the doll's hair. A lot of mistakes parents where they bought a lot of toys that children grew up into, especially guns, and then they end up having a toy while they weren't birthday, and that's create violence on each other. And we see bloodshed everywhere in the United States, all over the world. But Dominica, I find, has increased in murders and so much violence. So I think the lack of education and empowering the youth the way forward lacks a lot of resources to come in. So I think the administration and whoever is those that deals with that area or avenue of responsibility should look into that and try to not only them too. We the people can do what we can do on ourselves. Don't ask, as they say in the United States, don't ask what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. So I think if everybody, you know, play their part and then they play their part as a true citizen, I think they can make Dominica a better place to live, to work, and a better life.
Yeah, so what can you share with us, Jason, because you're on the ground? What can you share with us about some of the unfortunate incidents that happen in Dominica, such as the drownings that we heard of? I heard one young man got shot in the head. Someone else was run over in Santa Roma. The unfortunate, untimely death of that 24-year-old in Point Michelle. It just seems like the list goes on and on. So can you share any insight on some of these incidents with us?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we have the incident in Santa Roma where the vehicle, gentleman that rolled the vehicle, he lost his life. We have an incident where the stabbing, the shooting. Also, we have the Chinese. There was today a young man of 16-year-old boy was charged for murder. That was, I don't know if you remember or recall, the Chinese national that was killed in Marigat. He was chasing some young man with a machete, and then in turn that they returned stones and flowing missiles back at him. But one individual, with the police has arrested, no evidence, no motive of that murder, but it's alleged that he was part of the running of the guys with him against the Chinese. So I guess that's why, just based on two witnesses. So there's a lot of things that's taking place with the incident in Santa Roma, with the accident. A young man, security guard, I know him very well. He lost his life. I mean, when we go out, you never know the hour of death. You never know when the Lord will take your life away from you. But I always learn in America, when you have gas, you can never get lost. And the more times that you're on the road, is the more times you get pulled over. The chances are you get pulled over by the police. So I see a lot of people in Dominica like to hang out, like to party, like to go out, like to drive, like to drink, and enjoy life recklessly. But lacking a lot of measures, like signs, speeds, traffic signs. So we're lacking a lot of that. If there was a speed bump in that area, maybe the driver would have slowed down and take that speed bump easier, and the person would be not alive. So there's a lot of things that is lacking infrastructure-wise, so that we can live as you should not worry that your child is walking by the side of the road and a vehicle isn't coming at 80 miles an hour, and we do not have highways and byways like the US. Our roads are one-way roads, and two vehicles pass on the same road. They're very narrow. So we need to be more cautious and careful in our driving, living our daily lives, where we go, where we eat, people, places, and things, what we do in everyday lives. But it's just too much. We are innocent
Yeah,
lives really.
yeah. And it seems it's like one after the other. It seems like it's one thing after the other. But I want us to stay on the incident in Santa Roma, because from what we're hearing, and of course the police have to do their work, but from what we're hearing, it seems like it was a case of a love triangle gone wrong. And I'm just thinking to myself, it seems like now in Dominica, we're very quickly resorting to violence. And I grew up in a time in Dominica. I don't know if it's the easy availability of guns and weapons in Dominica, but it just seems like the days that we're living in Dominica now, that so many of our young people are just quick to violence. And I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on that.
Um, Let me just make this very clear. I don't know if you remember the incident with the correction officer who killed his woman with a cylinder. He was sentenced to 18 years. That's John Mr. Lewis, officer. I forgot his name. Help me there. John Lewis, and was sentenced to 18 years, 5, 6 years time served. But he has to do a minimum of 18 years when he slaughtered or killed or murdered his girlfriend with a heavy filled cylinder, just because that when he was walking a young gentleman proceeding, so which means to him that he was assuming that the individual had a love affair with his girlfriend, and then it escalated into the living room when he sat there and waited for the police. I think we have, with this incident in St. Dominica, from the information that I received, from the information that I gathered, um, it is a love triangle went down bad. Jealousy, envy, and also stalking. We have a problem in Dominica where a lot of Dominican men, I'm sorry to say this, I'm very, very sorry to say this, but it is reality that Dominican men needs to understand that when you are in love with someone, doesn't mean that that's someone, unless you're married to that person. And even though you're married to that person, that is not your child. This individual is somebody else's child. The woman can tell you no, she can tell you yes. It is not your responsibility to tell her when to move or when to sit or when to stand. Slavery abolished many years ago. So a lot of men in Dominica, they don't trust their women, they don't trust their girlfriends. They have this type of jealous love. They love very strong. If you are dating a Dominican guy, I mean, I speak for, I don't know, for majority, I'm not saying that there is bad fellas here or bad guys here. There are some good ones, but there is also some bad ones. You just have to just vet the man that you love, or the vice versa, the woman, before you start dating them, because you might be dating a psychopath or mania. You might be dating somebody who is jealous. You might be dating somebody who doesn't like to see you even talk to someone on the phone. So that is the dangerous avenues that a lot of people take here in Dominica, especially men. A woman's supposed to leave your house if she decides to take a walk up the village and you not follow her. That happens a lot here. Men
Really?
don't trust the women. Absolutely, they don't trust the women when they go out. They don't trust them when they say, "I'm going to comb my hair by this person. I'm going to hang up by this person." The men tend to stalk them. The men tend to not believe them. And certain things, you see, we have cell phones. Another thing a lot of men do here, your woman's cell phone is not your phone, it's her phone. Women should not put a lock on their phone if you have a boyfriend by you. You should not hide your phone from him if you're on your phone. If you have to use your phone, you use your phone. But your men will just, some men tend to try to spy into women's phones. They try to spy into women's communications devices, TikTok, Instagram. So I can clearly and convictionally say today that a lot of Dominican men need to check themselves. And when they love very strong, yes, you can love strong, but you don't want your love to be a jealous love. You don't want your love to be envy love or a stalking love. Your woman should leave the house and go to Rosa without even worrying where she go. And to some women, if you have a good man, you keep him, you treat him nice, you respect yourself. You leave your home and you go out to shopping in Roseau. You don't go looking for a man. You go and do your shopping. You don't go looking and riding in a vehicle survey or going on your phone and telling another man, "Look, I am by with church or I'm by Astafan." And then while you know your man is working hard on the banana fields, under the plantain fields. And that is what's the aggravating factor here. I believe a lot of men put a lot of money into a relationship and time, and some women they take advantage of that, and that can create a bomb, an atomic bomb into that individual's mind. If the man is putting a lot of time into you, and sometimes majority of the men here date women that has a lot of children, and sometimes some men date women and none of the children belongs to them, and they maintain the children just like how they have to maintain the woman. And that can be frustrating to a man if you go out there cheating on him or trying to be with another man, and you coming home to him and he know he's working so hard. It can blow that man up mind. His mind can, and that's why those violence, I see a lot of violence become like road rages
Yeah,
against.
but
I'm
Jason,
very
Jason, let's have a candid conversation, because women too can experience jealousy with regards to their men going out and cheating, but we don't see incidences of women running over, the people that are cheating on her with a
that is
car.
true.
So why is it
That
that it seems like, these violent incidences that we're hearing about in Dominica, it seems to be men who are the perpetrators? Is it something that maybe our men have bottled up their feelings and they don't have an outlet? We don't encourage our men to cry. We don't encourage them to express themselves. We don't encourage them to seek counseling. So all their anger and rage, whereas we as women, we can call a girlfriend and say, let me tell you what he did to me. Right? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, yeah. You see, and that is the thing. I have a problem here. Instead of the women discuss it with the boyfriend. I always want women. I always advocate and tell women, you all need to be very careful who you date. You should know who you're going out with. You should know your man. And if you know your man, some women like a lot of blows. A man beat them up and they will not leave the man.
Oh,
So we have
wow.
to
That's unfortunate.
look at that deep. That's very deep, because I know a few persons who um, I am totally against violence on women, and any man who puts his hands on a woman is a punk, and he should not be called a man. But a lot of women end up in this type of abuse and road rage and stuff like. But they still stay they still stay there. They do not walk away. They do not move on. And sometimes too, the men tell them, look, you can't go anywhere. You ain't going nowhere. Nobody wants you. Nobody want to be with you. You have high mileage, all that kind of nonsense stuff. But some men are crazy out there. And that is why it goes back to the fact we're asking the question, what is causing all this problem in Dominica? But we have to look at the mitigating factors there, that a woman should know who they are dating. And we go back to parenting. Some children, especially young girls, many of them have raised in churches. Their parents have tried their best to raise them in churches, to be decent. But majority of them, the men that you see them date, especially the church going girls, with guys with their pants under their butt, black rubber bands in their foot, and there's the guys that they hang out with on the block that's smoking marijuana every day. A lot of children are disappointing their parents of what their parents expected from them, to see who they're dating today. Instead of they go look for a lawyer, somebody to lift them up, somebody to take them from one level to the next, or to better their future or career. Although I'm not degrading the young men who wears the pants under their butt, they could be productive if they change themselves around. But they tend to bring the young women into the same environment that they are in, and that creates an avenue of gangstership, an avenue of ghetto, if you learn to live in a ghetto, and that degrades you and brings you down. And some parents just have to look at their daughters when they walk to their house. Sometimes their boyfriend will have firearms, and that is the kind of environment that they put themselves in. So yes, we can discuss factors of the issues that we have a problem in Dominica with violence. The violence part can be dealt with on the law part of the view of it, but in terms of dealing with it on the local level, on a social level, we have to blame ourselves as Dominicans, as men, as women, on our conduct, our behavior, our demeanor, our attitude, our meaning of life, and the concept of how we live life. Because if I go date a woman that smokes crack, it's like you take a horse to the river and you cannot force it to drink. So there's a lot of things that you can look at. I believe to be put the blame on or point fingers on. Um, Love is a triangle. Love is a strong thing. Well, a man can have a beautiful woman and he's obsessed with her. He doesn't want to let her go. If he sees another person talking to him, to her. But women should know who they are dating. If you notice the man has a different side of him from when you start dating him, you walk away.
Yeah.
Time to
And
close the chapter.
Jason, that is just one of the topics that we want to cover today because we have so much to get through. But so thank you for sharing on that in terms of the level of violence in Dominica. And we certainly need social services and counseling, especially for our boys and men, because that is where we're seeing the most violence. So I think that you're raising several good points, but I also want us to make sure that we're covering the safety protocols because it just seems like, I cannot remember, and maybe someone on Facebook can correct me if I'm wrong, but I cannot remember the last time we talked about, driving speed limits in Dominica. And again, we're focusing on the fact that recently we had two untimely drownings. And I'm just thinking in terms of what could have been done to prevent those things. Maybe if we had some people in the community who were trained in CPR, who happened to be on the beach to be able to resuscitate, the drowning victims. So what role, are there any agencies in Dominica that can, for example, teach CPR to the village councils, to the young men? Because a lot of times our young men spend a lot of time on the beaches, our young women spend a lot of time, on the weekends on the beaches, relaxing, going to the rivers, having a cookout. So what can we do to ensure that the chances are increased that someone is trained in CPR and is able to rescue? So do you have any thoughts on that first, Jason? But before you do, let's make sure we acknowledge our Facebook guests. We have quite an audience and we want to thank them for being here. So I see Tabitha Andrew, my dearest friend. So good to see you. Thank you for being here. So again, guys, we're talking about safety protocols in Dominica and what can be done. When was the last time we heard of any updates on safety protocols? Because I remember even when I took my daughter to Dominica and she was 2, there was no safety protocol in terms of, ensuring she was in a car seat that was age appropriate. For her, there was, you go to Dominica, and that is the other thing. You go to Dominica and people laugh at you if you want to put on a seatbelt in the car. So I'm just thinking what we can do about that. So let me just make sure we acknowledge a few people on the Facebook Live, Jason, and then you can respond. So we
No
have
problem. No problem.
Simon, Merlin, Alfred is here. Astrid says the crime rate is high in Dominica. So right. Ronald Riley, great to see you. Deborah Zamore is here. Vincent Warrington, Stanley Paul, all the way in Canada, is here. Leo Avar, Viva Mamo, great to see you. Lavi Isbel, I love that name. Good to see you. And Dominic, again, Tabitha, great to see you. Gabriel Francis is here. Carol, Edith, Redzi, Josephine, Pauline, Peony, Caesar Wrighton, wow, from MSU, good to see you. Charles Hope is here. Cheryl, Josephine, wow, we have a full house. My auntie, Hammy, is here. Are you blaming women for the shortcomings? There are doctors and attorneys that abuse women. Excellent point, Auntie Hammy. Thank you so much for sharing that. Frederick Baron, Ziska, my mom, Medina Senhouse. Stanley Paul says education is the key. It has to begin with the grassroots level. At home, parents have to teach their children. So he's making a really good contribution. Carolyn, D'Angelo, Franco, we have quite an audience. Jason, so thank you for being here. So let's address that question. When was the last time we heard of any safety protocol updates in Dominica. And we as a society, we as Dominicans, what can we do to ensure that when we visit Dominica and when we invite others to visit to Dominica, and for those of us who live in Dominica, what are your thoughts, Jason, in terms of, just safety protocols in Dominica?
Well, what should I say? You're talking about safety protocols in Dominica for swimming and all the beaches, and Dominica would need to upgrade. There's a lot of boy, it's very tricky and ticklish to discuss this because there is a lot that can be done in Dominica. For instance, when it comes to, as I told you earlier, speed bumps, signages that used to have before 30-mile zone, 45-mile zones. Our beaches are in our plain. We have the Atlantic Ocean, the Black Sand Beach, and this ocean has taken a lot of lives before. And there is a lot of current that drifts you away into the ocean. And if you can't swim, you will drown. And there is a sign that is posted up on that beach: swim at your own risk.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not enough. I think there should be a more broad aspect of the fire department. In Dominica, we do not have first aid volunteers groups like the US. You have a fire department and a first aid squad that do voluntary service in the community. This can work here. This is another avenue. I used to be a paramedic in the United States, in New Jersey, in Newark, New Jersey. I work at Rutgers University Hospital, and also Robert Wood Johnson EMS, which is at New Brunswick, New Jersey. So I know a lot about EMS, certified trained EMT, certified trained ALS, advanced life support in rapid evacuation, everything else, save lives. So I know a little bit about that. CPR training. This is something that they can look into. That will definitely help the youths as well. That's smoking the weed on the blocks every day. Get involved in a first aid ambulance squad, volunteer service. Get some donors to send some ambulance and trucks. You have the whip that if you create that, you can have fundraising. They give themselves a name. Let's, for instance, you have the La Plaine. We have the disaster committee in La Plaine. You have the Red Cross branch, something like that nature. But you have an additional one, and you can post training, do CPR training through those groups, and then that you get some bicycles, you uniform them to ride around the beach, let them be seen, let them be known who they are. On the beaches, you can place lifeguards. Whether we have the National Employment Program, which is the NEP in this administration, they could also employ certified divers or certified swimmers who could be placed at least two lifeguards on the beaches wherever that they expect crowdness
Yeah,
or
the more
crowd.
popular beaches, especially
More
for the
popular.
holidays, right?
Absolutely. So they all look into in certifying divers. Dive Dominica can look into it. Dive Dominica has some scuba divers because the same way when the cruise ship comes and then the Dive Dominica sends out divers with its Dive Dominica team to assist the tours, they could do that on the island here on the beaches to enhance the safety and security of all who visit this island.
Yeah, and Jason, while you're speaking, I'm actually taking notes because, and that is why I wanted to engage the Facebook audience today, because I'm just thinking in terms of who can assist us with these efforts, because I think it's important that we come on here, we have these candid conversations, we raise the concerns, but I also want this to be a very actionable program. So I'm constantly thinking of what agency, what organization. So I'm happy that you mentioned Dive Dominica, because they had not crossed my mind. And then the other association that comes to mind is the Dominican Red Cross Association. So for anyone who's on the Facebook Live, if you know of these organizations, you know how we can reach these organizations. You know how we can probably organize something. And again, whether it be voluntary, because as you know, there's always the saying in Dominica, things are tight, nobody can pay nobody. But if we can at least get some volunteers, occupy our young men, because so many of our young men are sitting on the block, doing nothing all day. Occupy them, train them, make them see what they're capable of doing, so that the chances
Right.
are that if they happen to be out on the beach on a holiday and someone is in trouble, then they know the correct way to rescue someone. Because I bet you, in the first incident where the young man went to rescue the two tourists from drowning, if he knew the correct protocols for rescuing someone, chances are he would still be here with us today. So I think that is so unfortunate. And then we hear about another house fire. And I'm thinking to myself, well, do we have new homes going up in Dominica all the time, which is excellent. It is wonderful to see, especially people in the diaspora building at home. But is there, smoke detectors? Are they mandated for these new homes? And who can help us with that? Thoughts, Jason?
We have, I think my thoughts on this one there is that we have a problem with the planning. The planning in Dominica is not only drawing a plan and giving someone permission to build a house. I think planning should take the responsibility of ensuring that when you build a home, that part of the approval to build this home should have installations of fire resistance, fire installations, fire
Right.
extinguishers, and also fire hydrants near the home where you're building, or inside the house should have a way of a method of water fire hydrant to be, if there's a fire that it activates. So planning should look into it, and they should not approve plans to build any home in Dominica without a fire resistance plan, because you need
Mhm.
it for liquor licensing. If we need for you to open a bar in Dominica, you need to have a fire extinguisher in the bar, literally. If you do not have a fire extinguisher in the bar, you will not be approved to open a liquor license in a parlor license for a bar. So if it applies to bars, why can't it apply to homes? We should not be
Right.
building Dominica without the planning division when they come to visit the sites of the house where the house is going to be built. They need the contractor, the owner must have in their plan fire extinguishers built into the house, and have a pipe from outside to out of the house, and water running through your ceiling to your roof. So just in case that there is a fire, the water automatically disperses. They should have that in Dominicans. The new technology and new building codes in Dominica, that should be applied. And there's no other way I can see this. I cannot ask you for Ask the Fans to intervene. I cannot make. We have a company, Do It Center. It's a huge wholesale company. PH Williams, PH Charles, to try to assist. That would take a long, long time to get done. I think if it is tackled from the door, that planning do not allow no one to build their homes. You must put fire extinguishers or fire um,
Smoke
in the
detectors,
house.
at least.
So
Smoke
is right.
detectors.
In the home, you can buy the smoke detector, but what is a smoke detector is only two penlight batteries, and you screw it on your ceiling, and it tells you it starts to make noise when it smells, when it gets heat or smoke. But
Hmm.
what are the chances when you're in Roseau and I'm in a plane and my smoke
Right.
detectors go off? It doesn't make sense. I
Hmm.
believe that there should be a direct attack on that fire, which is complete water and activation of a valve that is in your home, that if any fire or heat touches it, it bursts out, and it eliminates the damages of your
Right.
home. And also the insurance companies can also tackle that as well. People should not insure their house for a high amount of money. The insurance company should put in the policy that they need to have those in their house. So if the person want to do it, the insurance company should play a role in having a little strain on the owner to implement that on their plan of action to build their home. If you do not have that and your house is destroyed by a fire, the insurance company will not pay you your full compensation because we told you on your policy that you need to install those things. So if people want to build their homes without them, you see, there are things that we are lacking here. And that is why I told you a lot of people here cannot travel to the US or England or Europe because the foreign life is very different from here. We are too bent on the regular living lifestyle. We need to step it up, step it a notch, and upgrade. There's a lot of things here that is not implemented in terms of the law. There's a lot of things here that the law is there, but it's not being enforced. But we tend to just live and relax and be laid back. And then it creates a loss of life, negligence, and then we just let everything go down the drain. But we can be a better Dominica if we put our heads together, be creative, and everyone think wisely and don't think for today, think for tomorrow, think for the future. And
Yeah, and I
that
think
all
so
steps.
many, and I think so many wonderful comments are coming in on the Facebook Live. So I want to thank everyone who's here and who's sharing their comments. For example, Jennifer Fidel Johnson says more road signs and safety rails are needed. Jennifer Christmas James says, what about educating lifeguards or have courses at the college for the people that are interested? She says Houston is saying, hey, educational program. Thank you, Jennifer. She also says our country is backwards in so many ways. And this is why we're here, because we know that there's certain things that are not being done. And we as citizens, because although I've been up here for 25 years, I'm still a citizen of Dominica, right? So we as citizens, we have to take it up. And we have so many Dominica associations around the world. And I'm just thinking, for example, if we have a project that involves fire safety in Dominica, that can be a project that one of the association takes up. So I'm just hoping that we've reached the right ears, which is one of the reasons I keep asking folks to share the live. And I'm thankful that most people do share the live so we can see who does this resonate with, which associates and organization group will take this up as a project and say, what, let's try to see what we can do, whether we purchase the equipment in Dominica or it is donated from overseas and sent to Dominica to ensure that Dominica is a safer place. Because, we tend to have these issues and they happen all the time. And, someone dies, we sympathize and we move on. And I think there is so much more we can do than simply just sympathizing with someone and moving on. We can think, what are the lessons we can learn? Because we've been dealing with these situations, the drownings and the house fires and the road accidents. We've been dealing with them. It's not from today. We've been dealing with them from a very long time. Right? So it is time to now have this conversation and time to see what action we can put behind the conversation. So let's take a couple more of our Facebook comments. Jennifer says, as a youth, I took first aid and CPR classes from the Dominica Red Cross. So here you have it. My auntie Hami says, how about swimming lessons for the youth? Is that being offered in Dominica? I know, for example, when I grew up, my parents couldn't afford swimming lessons, right? Because you had to pay for them. But can Dive Dominica, one of the other organizations on the ground, offer swimming lessons so that, people can swim in and rescue lessons for those of us who like to frequent the beaches and the rivers, right? Janelle, most times when training in these fields are being offered, persons are not interested. The government cannot do everything. Citizens themselves can pursue training to create employment. Janelle, you are absolutely correct. The government cannot do everything. So this is why we are here to say, what can we as citizens do to ensure our safety and the safety of those who visit our shores? Jennifer Fidel, in 1982, I organized swimming classes at Rockaway for the students of the Wesley High School school. Jennifer James, also emergency exits. Yep. Janelle, you think everyone can afford that? That's why we're asking for volunteers. Janelle Anthony, we have been laid back too long. Jennifer, Dominica abroad always willing to help to move our country forward. So lots of great comments. Jennifer, my 5 and 4-year-old granddaughters can swim. Jason, I think we have started such an important conversation, and I hope that we will share this video and we will see what can be done, because it is just so sad to just hear another, accept my sympathy, and then we forget about the incident and we move on until something else happens, and then the conversation is brought back up, and then we go along with our daily lives. Any thoughts, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, so many things that can be done, so many things that um, people can do. People can, you know, assist in helping train even the secondary schools. Before we used to have, even in the Scouts, the Youth Corps, those groups, the Boy Scouts, and them. All these things are just dead. I'm not hearing about these things anymore. And a lot of children now are just social media. The world now is just TikTok, WhatsApp, and Instagram, and that is where our kids are right now. Their new parent has become their cell phone, and we need to take this off, and then let us get the ball rolling on educating our kids, our teenagers. Let us get them off the streets. Whoever is watching your program, whoever knows who to contact, who to work with. I am has been a community activist for a long time. I'm willing to assist. I'm willing to train. I'm willing to, we do different hikes, do camping, disciplinary hikes. Get this ball rolling, and let us make Dominica great again. It can
Yeah,
done.
absolutely.
It can be done.
Right. And Rosalind just raised a couple of very good questions. What was the cause of the drowning? Did the boat flip over? Was there alcohol? So I think the first case was the case of the guy trying to rescue the two visitors to our shore. And then the second one was at Purple Turtle, if I'm correct. And he
Can
simply
you
just
just
had trouble navigating the water. But she raises a very important point, the question of alcohol. Because, for example, Jason, do you know if there's an age limit on the purchase of alcohol in Dominica?
that is our problem, Dominica, and that is the problem here. You must not drink alcohol under the age of 18. You have
But
to be
is it
above 18.
enforced?
You have to be 18 years and older to consume alcohol. You have to be 18 years and older. 18 is an adult age. That is the law. That is the legal age limit to buy a beer. But today, we are seeing teenagers, 16, 14, 13, 17, drinking alcohol, drinking beers, drinking. I mean, I say it every day. We go back to parenting. We go back to parenting. Parents are allowing the children to consume those alcohols. And I say this very boldly. Because if you look at this, you look at Carnival. I'm going to give you one example for Carnival. At 8 o'clock in the night, your 8-year-old daughter or your 8-year-old son should not be behind a band jumping up. He should be in his bed. And go home and change off and come back on the streets. So we have parenting has a lot to do with some of our children consuming alcohol beverages, and not only alcohol beverages, staying out on the street late at night when they are home watching TV. Their parents are home watching TV, but your 18, 19, your 15, and your 13 and 14-year-old daughter or son is in the streets hanging out. You don't know where he or she is. You don't know where your child should not be on the street when darkness takes. Here is not America. When darkness takes here, we are in USA. We are in darkness. You have from one street light to the next. It's not about what, 25 feet or 30 feet. So what are the chances that something can happen in terms of crime, a rape to your daughter or to your son while you're home and you'll just get a phone call, something happened to your child. So some parents, I'm calling on them in Dominica to stop their negligence when it comes to their children. And when they're consuming alcohol, and I'm sorry to say, I know of some parents who smoke cannabis in the presence of their children. So that is not only a national issue, but we're discussing how can we address these matters. It starts at home. It starts at the mother and the father. They're doing it and in front of their children. And I would not put it that the other residual animalistic behaviors are taking place in front of the children. So there's a lot of things that we can discuss, a lot of things that can, a lot of I see of lack of parenting in Dominica, and some. I'm very happy how my mom and dad raised me. We could not even go out on a Sunday afternoon. Everybody had to sleep in bed. My father would put us to say, everybody take your Sunday afternoon rest. My father never used to allow us to be off the road. 10 o'clock, we had to be home. And I remember my brother Jomil, when he came home one night, about after 11, my father told him to go back where you came from. You're not entering my house after 11. So these are the disciplinary measures that parents should take or should have been taking with the children. And another thing that parents in Dominica do, you need to know who you media. You need to know who your children or your child or your daughter or your son is talking to on WhatsApp or on Instagram. These are not for your children, your teenage daughters. Instagram is not for your teenage daughters. And another thing, some parents are watching television in their living room and their child is online in their room and you don't know who your child is talking to. He could be talking to a sex offender, or she could be talking to somebody, or a big man, a doctor, a lawyer, that's trying to predator your child. Parents need to supervise their children, what they are getting from people, what they're drinking and consuming, and what they're doing. And that is the problem that we lack in Dominica. Some parents are to be blamed for their children's behavior because when something happened to their child, first thing they do, they call the police. They call the police. Why are you calling the police for? You should call the police yourself because your child should not be drinking alcohol. And to the bartenders, there is some shopkeepers in Dominica who just about money. And if a 16-year-old comes to buy a beer, they will sell it to him or her. They don't care. So
yeah, because Jason, it begs the questions: do 18-year-olds typically have IDs to show that they're 18 to be able to even purchase the alcohol? Do normal, typical 18-year-olds in Dominica have IDs to identify themselves?
Well, see, the thing is, they do not make it a mandatory. That's what I'm saying to you. We do not have a system in place where the liquor and licensing bar must require ID. They do not do that. So therefore, it is of useless to come to a shopkeeper and give him my driver's license as a teenager. You know what he's going to tell me? What is that for?
Wow.
Yeah, so that is where we are. It is not a normal in Dominica where you need to present your ID.
So essentially, you're saying a 10-year-old can walk into a shop and buy alcohol because nobody's requiring that you show an ID to purchase alcohol. Pretty much the shopkeepers are just interested in making the money.
Absolutely.
That's unfortunate.
Absolutely. That is very unfortunate. But this is reality, and that's what's happening. And that is what's happening. We have young teenagers selling weed on the block. They are being drug dealers, and that's how they make money. And some parents, after this government, we're not going political, but after this government allowed the authorization of cannabis, yes. I think it's three trees to your backyard or in your yard. I mean, one tree can give you how much? A lot of grams. So therefore, they allow and encourage the youth that you could plant 3 marijuana trees in your yard and process it. And let me tell you something. We have a serious problem in Dominica, which is called poverty. You may not see it, but let me tell you, there is a lot of parents, families that do not have. They do not have. They do not have. They don't even know where their breakfast comes tomorrow morning. They do not know where their lunch is coming from. And they do not know where their dinner is coming from. And what do? That is why I believe the majority of our problem is that the teenagers, the young girls, the young men are out there in the streets. And then when parents get stuff from their children, it'll be from a man, a grown man, or somebody with their daughter, give them a $20 or $50. And then you'll even hear some parents telling the children, next time they can give you 100.
Hmm.
Let them know you need to pay your lights. That is where we are on a poverty level. Parents cannot wait for their child to become in an area where their child can be vulnerable. I'm going to switch
That's
phones
unfortunate.
right here now with you. I'm going to switch phones with you. So continue talking to your guests.
Yes,
I'm going to,
I'll take the comments from the Facebook because we have quite a few
yes,
comments coming in
I'm
on the
going to switch
Facebook.
phone because my battery is dying out on this one, so I'm going to switch phone. So I'll come back
Yeah,
on the
that's
other phone. Go ahead.
yeah, that's fine. We're about to wrap up anyway, but take your time. Yes, so we have quite a few, and I want to thank everyone who's here on the Facebook Live with us and just being engaging in the conversation and offering suggestions. Because again, how many times do we have to hear of another drowning? How many times do we have to hear about another vehicular accident, another house fire before we start thinking that maybe we should organize ourselves together in terms of safety protocols? So we have Josephine Williams. Thank you for being here. Very good program. Rosalind, you're so very correct, but the youth today says it's old fashioned or old school. Janelle, back in the day and this day and age are very different. We just have to accept that fact and work around it. Yes, it is very different, Janelle. You are so correct. It is very different, but some things still remain the same, that a 10-year-old should not be allowed to go into a store and buy alcohol. I think there's certain points, we may disagree on so many things as Dominicans, but I think we can find common ground on certain topics, such as the fact that there should be a way to identify someone who's interested in purchasing alcohol, right? Again, this is not new information because as a child growing up, I remember going to the village where my mom is from and hearing about little kids going to buy alcohol. So I'm not saying that this is new, but I'm saying it is about time that we do something to change some of what we are experiencing and some of the things we have experienced in the past. Auntie Hamid, that's true. Right now, we're talking about Dominica. So I like that everyone recognizes that some of the stuff that we're talking is not unique to Dominica, but Dominica is my heart. So while I may be concerned that these things are going on in other areas, I think our major concern is taking care. We are the stewards, I think, of Dominica. So my main interest is ensuring the safety and what can we do for our country. Judith Cochran, great program as usual. Thank you, Judith. Deborah Zamora, great topic. Let's see. Janelle says no 10-year-olds are able to purchase alcohol. Well, Janelle, I have to tell you, in my experience, I saw it happening, right? Because my aunt had a shop back in the village my mother is from, and I saw it happening. So, it's your experience. Maybe you haven't personally witnessed it, which is good for you, but I personally witnessed it, so it does happen. All right, Louis, it happens right here in Dominica. And let's say good night and good evening to other folks who are on the Facebook Live. D'Angelo Riviere, Franco, Dangleben, good to see you. Joanne Farrell, lovely to see you. DJ Rhythm, good to see you. Let's see who else I may have missed. So we have quite an audience. Wendy Williams, Franklin Timothy, Katharina Jemmert, Floria Fontaine, Monty Blanchard. Such a great audience. I want to thank everyone for being here. Know Your Culture is watching. Oh, Know Your Culture. I need to connect with you. Rosette is here. Lois Sweetness, Catherine Sandy, Gabby is here. Lillian Yusika, I hope I got that right. Kelsa, Terry, Fran, Leslie, Diane Charles, Opia Pascal, Jason, too many names to mention. like we would say in Dominica. So I want to thank everyone who
Amazing.
joined us on this
It's amazing.
Facebook Live, this candid conversation. You know, we're going to continue bringing the topics, and you know, Jason, as I'm talking to you, topics are coming up, and one of the ones we need to address is something you mentioned about our teenage daughters should not be on Instagram. Jason, that is a conversation and a topic all of its own. So I want us to come back and have a candid conversation on that
Absolutely.
particular topic because we're going to keep the conversation
Absolutely.
going. And again, you know, we want to ensure that no one sees this as a personal attack because in Dominica, unfortunately, you try to raise concerns, you try to offer constructive criticism,
Absolutely.
and before you know it, it's a personal
Yeah.
attack. So we want to just ensure that we can speak freely, we can raise questions, we can raise concerns, and we can offer recommendations on how do we move forward together as a people? How do we move our country forward? How do we improve the safety of our people on the ground? And before I forget, you know, sometimes I get so excited doing these programs, I forget to thank my sponsors. So let me be sure to thank tdnradio.net as well as Badui Financial Services for their sponsorship. So, Jason, as we get ready to wind down the program, you have some final thoughts first. And again, I want to thank you for joining us and providing such wonderful insight on these topics.
I just want to encourage everyone to do what you can for your country. Do not turn your back on Dominica. Dominica is a beautiful nature island. A lot of greenery here. There's a lot of herbs here. A lot of bushmeat. There's a lot of natural resources. A lot of Dominica is beautiful people. I do not want us to paint here that Dominica is a bad place and we got bad people here. But we must not forget and we must remember that we can get carried away into the new technological world and then we do not want to spoil ourselves. Let us not forget the milk and honey. Let's bring it back to the milk and honey. Let's bring back Dominica to how it used to be and better it into the 21st century. You know, um, modern technology. You know, we things is not like the same anymore. We used to cover food in the pot in the outside kitchen. I mean, where do you see that in the States? We have outside kitchen here. You cover your breadfruit with a banana leaf, but now we have a bomb on a cover. So things get upgraded. To your parents out there, protect your children, keep them home, monitor them, see who and what they are talking to or who they're talking to. Pregnancy is another subject that we need to cover. Too many of our young girls are getting impregnated in Dominica. That's a big topic by itself. And why are they getting pregnant? And who is allowing them to get pregnant? A lot of underage as well. Pregnancy. We have a few cases in La Plaine, one or two cases in La Plaine that of a 16-year-old. She goes to secondary school and she just had a baby. And she still end up going to school with a big belly. So a lot of things you can cover. Parents need to just protect your children. Dominicans need to come together, see what you can do for Dominica. The lifeguards on the beaches, the fire and ambulance service need to be more trained. They need to give them better equipment so they can perform their duties better. We have taxi drivers, we do not have firemen here. So they need to be trained as firemen how to do CPR and not be panic. I mean, if you see how firemen respond to call, they're supposed to be first responders, and when they get on the scene, the regular civilian is doing CPR and they're scared to do it because they're not trained properly. So we have work to do. We have a lot of work to do. We need to do good community policing, good community work. We need to help each other. Don't wait for the government to do things for you. We can do it as a people, as a community, as Dominicans. We can work together. We have friends. We know people that know people. We can get things done. If you have a strong organization and a strong circle and you know what you're doing and you're not just running BS, we can get this done. The right people not only talking about it, but putting what we are saying into action, it can be done. And I'm always up for action. I'm happy to be on your program.
anytime you give me a heads up in advance, and we can discuss any topic of issue of interest. And let me say thanks to your viewers, to all of you who commented on her post. It's my pleasure. As you know, I am the Jason Fontaine, the original, not the photocopy. I will continue to fight for the issues that's confronting your people on this island, and also any way I can help, any way I can advocate and help to better our people and to better the way that we live and raise our kids and our environment. Also, plant your garden backyards, your cabbage, your carrot, your cucumber, stay healthy, and let us not forget we are in the COVID season. Please wear your mask, social distance, sanitize, and stay healthy. And love you guys.
Yes, thank you so much, Jason. Thank you for that, and thank you for being with us. And I want to thank everyone who joined us on this Facebook Live for another candid conversation as we looked at the safety protocols in Dominica. I want to make sure I acknowledge a couple of folks before we left. Tina Bell, always great to see you. You tuned in late. I'm sure you will catch the replay along the way. Joseph Hyacinth, Lenny Bertrand is here for Dinah, Phoebe, Royston, Catherine. Guys, don't forget to share the live. Let everyone know that we're here. Roy Labad, great to see you as well. Don't forget to share this information because, again, what we're trying to do is not just have these conversations, but we're trying to make this an action-oriented program so that we can tap into the resources, tap into our people around the world, organizations that can come together to address some of these issues. Because it seems like to me we're always stuck on the same topics, and there's so many other topics that we need to be addressing. So I want to thank you for being here. Again, if you tuned in late, I am Simone Matthew, and we were joined by Mr. Jason Fontaine out of the La Plaine area in Dominica. And we want to thank you for being here. Janine Merrifield Bannis, good evening. Good to see you. Jennifer, yes, we do need educational programs. Jennifer, politics killing our country. Before we were looking out for our neighbors. Now it is pure hate. Sad. Wendy, wonderful to hear something positive instead of always hearing that's how Dominicans are. Returnees are oftentimes treated with disdain. That's another topic. So I'm writing topics as we go along, the experience of our returnees. Jennifer, bring some young people on your program to listen to their frustration. Thank you. Rosalind, great program. So again, everyone, thank you for being here. This has been another candid conversation brought to you by Push Past 10. Don't forget to follow Push Past 10 as we continue to engage. We continue to promote and celebrate who we are as Dominicans. We promote our products, our businesses, our people, and our culture. And with that, I wish you a very pleasant good evening. Enjoy the rest of your day until we meet again right back here on YouTube and Facebook Live. You have yourself a wonderful evening. Take care.